The technical background is very simple. The Prime Minister, Netanyahu, who has a small majority in the parliament, 64 out of 120, he wants to change the judicial system in a way that would enable him to stop the trial and to get away with it. In order to reach this parliamentary goal, he is helped by his coalition partners. Part of them are ultra-Orthodox religious parties, want to use it to promote their interest, and a hardline nationalist parties want to promote their anti-Palestinian agenda in this occasion. So there is here a convergence of interest. Netanyahu wants to change the judicial system in order to evade the jail. They use it to squeeze out of him concessions that will allow them to legislate such legislation that will help them to promote their extremist idea. This is the combination. Now, the damage or the possible damage to democracy is so serious that it recruited all the democratic forces in the Israeli society and bring hundreds, not hundreds, many thousands. The last Saturday, it was almost 250,000 in all the country of people who protest for democracy. Who are the demonstrators? And this is very important to know. If you watch the profile of the individuals who go and demonstrate, this is the highly educated, innovative, creative, entrepreneurial part of the Israeli society. Those who give Israel its economic strength, its scientific strength, its military strength, they are demonstrating. They take to the streets because they want to protect the democracy. What is the slogan of the high-tech worker? No democracy, no high-tech. This is, in few words, this is the basis of it. And some of our enemies take it in a mistake as a symbol of weakness. On the contrary, the demonstration reflects the strength of the Israeli society, where so many people every week, for the 10th week, go to the streets, demonstrate for democracy. It shows that this is a very strong society. And who are the demonstrators? As I said, the professors, the high-tech experts, the young talents who invent all our patents and technology innovations. The best part of Israel, they are in the street. That's the reality. The president was supposed to be above the politics, and he is above the politics. He tries very hard to find a formula which will meet some of the demands of the coalition, but will protect several basic principles of democracy. The independence of the judiciary system, the fact that the judges are not appointed by politicians, and the supremacy of the rule of law. I think that he would not succeed to build a compromise that would satisfy the coalition. I'm afraid it will not work. He wants very much to prevent a constitutional crisis and a very, very deep rift in the Israeli society. I wonder if he will succeed. Not because he's very talented, and I highly appreciate his abilities, and more than that, his strong will to avoid rift in the Israeli society. But the ministers and the parliamentarians who are pushing forward this reform, what they call, they are so power hungry that they will not accept concessions. They will not. I would be surprised if they will. So he, in a couple of days, he should come out with his own proposal of a new scheme. If the government will be clever enough, they will accept it. If they will reject it, it will lead unavoidably to a constitutional crisis, because it will be irreconcilable conflict between the decision of the government and this decision of the Supreme Court. And government officials in the highest ranks will have to decide to whom they obey. And they will obey the rule of law, not the government, not the politicians. And you can't run a country in these conditions. So it will lead to a crisis, I believe, to new elections in a few months' time, before the end of the year. Theoretically, he has a majority in the Knesset, in the parliament, that can decide that now is 8 p.m. in the morning while we are sitting in the late afternoon. He has no problem, but there is a limit to what they can decide, that a small majority can impose changes which change dramatically the entire character of the Israeli state. We are basically a very democratic state, and they wanted to turn us to something like Erdogan's Turkey, or Poland or Hungary. It will not work in our society. And the demonstrations that you see every Saturday, this is only the promo. This Thursday will be more disruptive demonstrations. It would not work. Not that I'm not threatened in a revolt, but it can't work. Look, a state that there is no pilots to fly the prime minister to Rome. It can't work. It can't work. If you notice, among the protesters, among those who wrote petitions, who stood clearly against the anti-democratic legislation, you can find the pilots, Air Force pilots. You found the reservists of the intelligence branch, the reservist of our intelligence gathering units. I will not go into this, but the best units that give us our famous military strength, the sources of our military superiority. Look, we are the strongest military force between the Caspian Sea and the Atlantic Ocean and Gibraltar. Not only because of technology, because we have the best people in the important places. These people, they are against the reform. If it will be external danger, I believe they will all stand in the first line as they used to be. All of them. They will not sit at home if it will be a serious external threat. But they will say very clearly that those above him, the political echelon, the government, the cabinet, should be of a democratic character, not dictatorship. And they will put every Israeli government in a very difficult choice. If the government will choose a dictatorial way, they may not serve. I can't say that the demonstrations and the mass protest does not confuse our neighbors. They are not used to this kind of protest. By the way, 10 weeks, thousands every week, and only one demonstrator was slightly wounded. That's all. No clashes, no violence. It says something about our culture. You remember the Arab Spring? It is not the same. And there are people in the Arab countries which do not understand what's going on here. Mistakenly, they consider it as a sign of weakness, but it is not. It shows how strong is the democratic, creative, constructive, entrepreneurial part of the Israeli society. What you see in the streets, this is the real Israel. This is Israel which will prevail. It's not a mob. Maybe on the sideline, it is on the margins, it is supported by Israeli Arabs because they feel inconvenient to demonstrate on an issue which is not exclusively theirs. There is no doubt that the Arabs are one of the Israeli Arabs are one of the groups that will be negatively affected by this legislation. Why? Because who goes to ask the support or the protection of the court? The weaker parts of this population, like the Israeli Arabs. An Israeli Arab knows, by the way, even Palestinian in the territory, knows that if he appeals to the Supreme Court, he will have somebody listening to him and give him the justice he needs. That's why they are for sure they are against this legislation, because they are the first victims. I don't know what are the considerations of the political Arab leaders to stay aside, but there is no doubt where they stand in this dispute, in this rejection of the anti-democratic legislation. No doubt about it. If there was a serious intention by the government, the coalition, to sit down and talk, they would, at least for a while, stop the legislation. They are doing just the contrary. They accelerate the pace of the legislation in the parliament. Every day, the meetings and voting, they are extracting the ability of their majority to legislate in all the parliamentary levels, the committee, the plenary, and so on. And they refuse to stop for one day. They refuse to stop the process. It means that they are not going to a serious compromise. Because what the president asked them, stop the legislation, sit down and start talking. But they want to do it quickly. They want to use for the maximum the leverage that they have on the prime minister to obtain legislative benefits for themselves. And they don't stop. Now, since they refuse to stop, even a pause for a while, say, we are now sitting down week, two, and talking to each other. They refuse. So the result is that the protest accelerating also. and they by the end of March, in the end of March, the Knesset, the parliament, goes to a recess for the Passover vacation, and they want to complete the legislation until the Passover. If they succeed, then it will. Then after that, I believe in late April, June, it will come to the court. The court will not approve this legislation, and then there is a crisis to whom the government employees are obeying, to the law or to the government, and it will be very uneasy to run the country in these terms, that people refuse to obey to laws that they reject, and they have a backing from the Supreme Court. So maybe eventually it will lead to new elections.